us now to break this all down is Lisa Camooso Miller, Senior Vice President at ROKK Solutions and host of the Friday Reporter podcast. Lisa, thanks so much for coming on. First off, your thoughts on how everything played out today.
Tracy, thank you so much for having me. I think that this probably is the best possible outcome that we could have expected, right? This is a narrowly divided House of Representatives, and we already knew going into this debate that there was only going to be one de facto. So the whole process and the way it worked was really, to me, one that it really demonstrates to the American people and to your listeners that this is a House that is serious about governing. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be lots of bumps along the way. But more than anything, they got the job done. They got it done on the first ballot. And now it's time to get to the work that the people elected them to do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there was one defector there. Let's talk about that. Like some really strong opposition from Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who recently said there's no way that he was going to vote for Speaker Johnson, even if somebody pulled his fingernails out. Really strong words there. Ultimately, he ended up voting for House Majority Whip Tom Emmer. Talk to us more about that and why Massie just didn't get on board with Johnson.
You know, it seems to me like Congressman Massie was crystal clear in his voting and how he was going to vote. And look, he is elected by the people of his district. He felt as if that was the right call to make. He also, too, has said all along that he is going to be independent in his thinking. And so whether or not that is a good thing, it's a very difficult thing going into 2025, because with just a one-seat majority in the House of Representatives, it's going to make it that much more difficult for really any policy to be made because there is such a small, narrow division. And it's crystal clear that Republicans and Democrats are going to do their very best not to work together.
Yeah, and we know there were two representatives who flipped, Ralph Norman and Keith Self. They ended up changing their vote, and they voted against Johnson second round. What caused them to switch their votes?
There's no question. When we saw that there were at least a half a dozen members that held their vote and decided not to make their wishes known in the first go around, which you obviously, if you watched, Tracy, I know you saw this too, there was a lot of moving around. But I think ultimately they all came around to the idea that Mike Johnson has the best interest at heart. He also very much has a lot of the ear of the conference. So over 200 of the Republicans stepped up and supported him, with just a handful that were dissenting from that. It's interesting to me that, and goes to show that in spite of the fact that this is a very narrow majority, he will be effective as the next Speaker of the House.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about quickly before we wrap is how important it was to get Johnson elected today. I mean, what would have happened if we had to go a few more rounds and this process was dragged out?
Well, I think we saw it happen the last time we elected a speaker when Kevin McCarthy was in this fight. The longer time goes, the more there are people that say, well, maybe I should speak up and maybe I should have something else to say about this. It doesn't become more about the candidate or less about the candidate. It becomes more about what it is they can get in the negotiating process. And so short time was on the hands and in the favor of this new speaker, second term for him, and one that I think will be, as I said, successful because it was, in fact, a one ballot and a fast turnaround within the hour or so-ish. Well, maybe more than that. But otherwise, it was a good, to me, a good statement and a good step in the right direction.
Lisa, thanks so much. Great to get your insights today. We appreciate it.